Let the music roll, guys. Just like the Celtics are rolling. I think we're still undefeated here with this.
The music, it's winning.
It's got to be the music because the Celtics are now winners of 9 in a row. They get the job done. No Kristaps Porzingis, no Jaylen Brown, no Drew Holiday tonight for the Boston Celtics in Chicago. However, they were still able to manage to go out there and get the win, 124-113. We got a lot to talk about here, Franco, on today's post-game show. 124-113. Tatum, 26 points, 6 assists, right? Sam Hauser, absolute tear.
Lighting it up, yeah.
Absolute tear. He continues his hot streak, 7 of 8 from behind the arc. However, tonight, what stood out to you? Your initial thoughts, initial reactions, takeaway. You know the deal.
Yeah, tonight was more of a battle than obviously what we had in the past 3 battles with Washington and Detroit. So we got to see more of a play-in tournament style team that's going to be a candidate to be able to play us in round 1. Obviously, Chicago's been dealing with health concerns all season, but that team put up a valiant effort against the Celtics, but the depth is really shining through for the Boston Celtics through this winning streak. Sam Hauser, has became a great 3-point scorer, and beyond that, contributing on the defensive side, being able to have that wide open corner 3, being able to find that wide open space. And Peyton Pritchard also stepping in, having 34 minutes tonight, and also almost getting a double-double with assists. He was playing the facilitating role tonight, and he's going to be playing a huge role. You kind of see him playing the Eddie House role coming into the...
Ooh, I like that. I like the Eddie House role. I like that. Justin?
Yeah. This Celtics team, I said it about 2 or 3 games ago, how much I really trust this bench in this unit that we have. And we have this extremely, extremely, extremely rare ability to sit nearly your entire starting 5 and walk away with double-digit victories no matter who you're playing, right? Like, that's not going to that just doesn't happen. The Chicago Bulls, a potential first-round matchup. These guys are a play-in / postseason team. These guys are fighting for their playoff lives. They had a great shooting night. I thought the Celtics defensively didn't have a great game. Defensively didn't have a spectacular game, but you definitely have to give Chicago a lot of credit. They were hitting a lot of shots. They were moving the ball very well. So, not a terrible game from Chicago, but when you when you beat a team by 11 points, when they're shooting, 50, 60% from the field, that's just incredible. And that just goes to show you how dominant this Celtics team really is on an every night basis, especially coming off of a second night of a back-to-back, where I understand the Celtics are now 11-2 on second nights of back-to-backs, but this Celtics team is incredibly, incredibly locked in right now.
I think this 9-game winning streak is more impressive than what the Celtics were doing before that Cleveland loss on that win streak, that 11-gamer that they ripped off, because who's been in and out of the lineup, It's been really impressive that you got Holiday dealing with that dead arm. You got Brown, Porzingis, Horford, Tatum kind of rotating on this like resting flip-flop type of rotation.
Right.
And you really are just seeing the guys you didn't expect to step up, beginning to step up. And mind you, this Chicago team is at home tonight fighting for that playoff spot, right? Fighting for that standings. And Boston was able to come in and kind of control the pace of the game throughout, 4 quarters. And an individual I have to talk about, he's not the player spotlight, and the player spotlight we'll get into, but Peyton Pritchard, man. Peyton too big Pritchard, right? A little shot at Pat Bev for you there. He has been on an absolute tear over the last 6 games. 15.8 points, 3.6 rebounds, 7.2. That's a mistypo. That's not 7.2 steals, 7.2 assists, right? 57% from the floor and 53% from three, which is just absolutely absurd. Shooting clips for a guard, 50 from the floor and 53 from behind the arc. Peyton Pritchard, guys, with Holiday kind of having to miss some time here with that dead arm syndrome. Does this kind of allow the Celtics and kind of give them a lot more flexibility moving forward?
Gives them tremendous amount of flexibility moving forward. And Peyton Pritchard, who had a kind of slow start to this season, we were kind of really, I wouldn't say us three specifically, but there certainly were, some eyebrows raised where it's like, we gave him the extension. He's not having a great season to start off. His shot wasn't falling, really a liability on the defensive end. He seems to really be locked in and buying into exactly what this Celtics team is trying to do here. And you got to give Peyton Pritchard a lot of credit. He sat through so many DNP coaches' decisions throughout the last couple of years. So for him to be on this team still, to outlast Malcolm Brogdon and Marcus Smart and Kemba Walker, like that just goes to show you that this Celtics team has really seen this in Peyton Pritchard all along, and it was only a matter of time and opportunity for Peyton Pritchard. And what he's been able to make of this opportunity so far has just been absolutely spectacular. And he's coming alive at the perfect part of the season, right? When guys go down, when guys need rest, and you can have a guy like Peyton Pritchard coming in here, averaging a near double-double off the bench, and who can start any given night if you really need him to, even when you are healthy. To have a guy like him is just such a luxury, Franco.
And before the season started, everyone was talking about his extension, if he was going to be worth the money. He is well under his value for what we got from him for the next, what is his next contract? The next 4 years, I believe.
Yeah,
right.
4-year extension. So yeah, for 3 years, $4 million is going to be the minimum, veteran minimum. So we pretty much got him at a steal at that rate. And I think that what he's been able to do is being able to fill in and be that guy to play next to Derek White and Drew Holiday, and being able to be versatile. It kind of is a testament to how greatly built the Celtics roster is, that you could throw him in with any 4 other players and he is going to contribute and make all those players look better than they did before. He's been doing a great job of getting the ball to players like Brissett, getting slashers the ball, setting up opportunities for Sam Hauser. They have had a really big connection off the bench. Him and Sam Hauser, when you see him going down the floor in transition, you can literally see them pointing at each other who's going to take which shot. Like when they're setting up plays, you'll see them go, all right, Hauser, Pritchard's in his spot, which is, I think, top left of the key or a 3-point line, and he's just getting it there. And if it's not there, it's right there to Sam Hauser, and it's been textbook for him. And he's also been able to get to the middle of the paint as well.
I think the most important thing with Pritchard is right now his ability to stay ready and get ready, because his number has not been called a whole lot this year, right? And I think it's been really impressive that through 60 games this year, he was kind of, playing some up and down minutes. Some games you see him 20, some games you see him 5, some games you don't even see him. And I think his ability to be ready whenever his number is being called has been very impressive. I think Pritchard's a player that, I've been rough on over the course of the season, because obviously you just gave him that extension and you really don't know what role he plays, but the Eddie House role is a role where I'm all for. And it was I think Franco was a great connection, because Eddie House was a guy in 2008 off that bench who was a motor guy. He was a great 3-point shooter. He was a high energy, high hustle, smaller guard shooter. And that's exactly kind of what I see Peyton Pritchard as this year. And I think moving forward, that's what he has to be. That's the role he has to embrace. And you talk about, another player, his running mate off the bench, Sam Hauser. He's done it again, man. This is his third player spotlight in the past 10 games. Here's a stat. That's a stat for you, right? 3 in the last 10 for Sam Hauser. Tonight, 23 points, 5 rebounds, 2 steals, 8 of 9 from the floor. And guys, this one right here, believe it or not, is actually not a typo. 7 of 8 from behind the arc for Sam Hauser. He has been absolutely everything and more right now for the Boston Celtics, guys. And I feel like with Sam, we kind of mentioned him a lot recently with the guys in and out of the lineup, but the ability to just really find his shot in this stretch. And I think when you individually, Cornette, Pritchard, Hauser, Brissett, Tillman all kind of have, I think, individual goals they need to reach in these next, 11 games to finish out the year, dating back to kind of the past 5 or 6 to close out this season. And Hauser's has been to find that shot, get it into a rhythm coming into the playoffs. Because I'll tell you what, if Hauser can do this when the playoffs roll around, if he can shoot at this high of a clip, obviously those numbers are going to be a lot less. He's not going to be able to take 8 threes, every game. He might be able to, right? He might be able to get into a rhythm. But if he can continue to shoot, right in that high 40, mid 40 range over the course of 7 games, this Celtics team is just adding fuel to an already just absolute beast of an offense.
It's so bizarre because Sam Hauser, in a similar position, went undrafted, a 2-way contract deal from a spectacular summer league in Vegas. Went from all of a sudden Celtics at the trade deadline 2 years ago had 5 open roster spots. He was converted and then later signed to a 3-year extension. So it's like Sam Hauser has also been in Peyton Pritchard's shoes in a way where his number has not been called over the last 2.5 years. There's been nights where he plays 20 minutes, like you said, with Pritchard. There's been nights where he gets coaches' decisions, do not plays. And this year, every time his number's been called, it's been spectacular. I think last year, you don't wish injury upon anybody, but I think Gallinari going down early in the season kind of boosted that opportunity for Sam Hauser. And maybe we're not talking about Sam Hauser if Gallinari stays healthy and plays the role he was supposed to play with the Celtics. So that, in that alternate universe. But what we're seeing from Sam Hauser now, it's not the shooting that's impressed me, guys, because I know Sam Hauser is a sniper. I've watched him since college. What impresses me is we're so fixated on talking about how Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum and Derek White are taking these leaps in their career. Look at the progression of Sam Hauser. Even earlier in the season, compared to 2 to 3 months ago, when we saw Hauser and Hauser wasn't having a good shooting night, wasn't really impacting the game much. Like, let's be honest, he just wasn't. Now he's starting to get these off the dribble, kind of get to the basket, get to his spot, the finish game, the tier. We saw a couple teardroppers tonight from Sam Hauser. He's able to really hold his own on the defensive end. I wouldn't say he's a defensive specialist, but compared to even a few months ago, you can definitely tell his footwork has improved. Sam Hauser has been everything and more for the Celtics off the bench this season, especially as of late. And that's going to be huge, not only come playoff time, but come the final 2 to 3 week stretch here when guys like Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum need the night out. You can rely on a consistent Sam Hauser from the floor. Like I said earlier in this episode, and I said this last post game as well, I am so comfortable. There were stretches tonight where Tatum sat for multiple minutes, and I was so comfortable with what I was seeing from O'Shea Brissett and Sam Hauser and Luke Cornette and Peyton Pritchard. So that just goes to show you how guys like we're talking about, Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser, how they've been able to evolve in this Celtic system, Franco.
It's the Bus 3 boys. They've stuck together through a long time, and they've went through practices together. I think that they are perfect fits for what this bench has, and that's what differentiates the Celtics benches away from, you look at like the Los Angeles Lakers, where you have more luxury names like a Christian Wood coming off the bench. You have players like Jared Vanderbilt, players that you would be like, oh wow, imagine if the Celtics had them. But it's what they've just been able to form together and have that connection that those teams really don't. And you look around the NBA, a lot of benches aren't very stuck together, and you'll see teams switching through their rotations every single year. But the fact that the Celtics have had Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Luke Cornett as well, those three sticking together as almost a trio for a rotation for the past 3 years, and I think they've kind of been a project
Right.
in the eyes of the Boston Celtics because you've seen them have their stretches down in Maine over the past 2 or 3 years, and now you're starting to see all that come through.
And I
Right.
think that was the idea behind the trade deadline. A lot of people wanted to trade Pritchard. A lot of people wanted to trade Cornette and trade, Hauser less so, but his name was thrown into there. And I think Brad's vision was that he was going to ride out this chemistry wave, and he trusted those guys off the bench that he had. And when a lot of people didn't, and myself included at times, I was iffy on this bench coming into the year, and I was iffy on this bench from like January to February. They really weren't doing too much for us. And then, again, opportunity arise, and the Celtics have taken care of business all season long. And here come these bench players. And not only is it reps, guys, but it's confidence.
Yeah.
Their confidence is going to be sky high. They are winning games against solid teams at a very high rate right now. So when I look at Hauser, I look at Pritchard, I look at Cornette, I'm seeing three guys that have impressed me far beyond expectations. And I'm very excited to see how they can contribute when the playoffs arrive. And
Right.
when you speak of playoffs, you think of another man that I got to talk about tonight. And I'm going to tell you what, I don't think this man, Mr. Al Horford, has been talked about at all on our post-game shows this year. I mean, hardly ever. Al Horford was awesome tonight. Aged like fine wine, guys. This man just does not seem to age. Al Horford tonight against the Chicago Bulls, 23 points, 8 rebounds, an assist, 50% for both the floor and behind the arc, guys. Al Horford was big time for the Celtics. Another example, if you ask me, on just players staying ready, being ready when your name is called. What do the Celtics need tonight? It's different every single game. These role players have their roles, but they are being able to reach into their bag and do different things. Al Horford, guys, if you ask me, I think he's going to hit another level when the postseason arrives, because this man that has been able to kind of coast throughout the regular season. He's been playing right around 25 minutes. We've been able to rest him on second nights of back-to-backs. He hardly has ever played over, I don't think I've ever seen him over 35 minutes a game this year, like at all, like not a game, but like in a game. He's hardly ever plays more than that. And I think he has been able to rest. And if you remember correctly, guys, last year in that Eastern Conference Finals, Al Horford's legs were shot. You could tell his shot wasn't really falling like it was all year. Defensively against Bam, he was kind of up and down. So Al Horford moving closer to the playoffs, I mean, he could be just another huge big time luxury for the C's.
Yeah, we continue to say the word luxury, and that all goes back to the bench, because you can have guys now. You're deep enough where Al Horford could get the night off and not have to worry about it as well. And now you have Porzingis, where we could start to see where Porzingis plays on the first night and Al plays on the second night, just like we've seen with Tatum and Brown here recently. And on top of that, I want to shout out. I forget the coach's name. He was a shooting coach in Atlanta, but essentially, Al Horford was 2015, 2016. Al Horford, he was aging. The big man game was starting to really extend, and bigs were starting to space the floor and shoot the three balls. And give credit to the Atlanta coaching staff, kind of forcing Al Horford to extend his shot range and go from that mid range to that corner three, and now eventually top of the key threes, where he hits pretty fluently now. So he's really been able to extend his career beyond extra years due to the fact of his 3-point shooting and his ability to really space the floor for the Celtics. I think what he's able to provide to this team really helps out guys like Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. He's the perfect veteran for this team as well. He's the ultimate sacrifice guy. Let's face it, we could talk about his age all we want, but his play speaks for himself. He's still a starter on this team. He is 100% still a starter on this team, and we could see him a starter on this team depending on matchups. But with what I've seen from Al Horford, especially tonight, you're going to let Al Horford shoot the 3 ball, man. Give him 10 attempts. He's knocking down over 50% of them. I'll take that any given night. 8 rebounds tells you how locked in he is. Doesn't matter how old he is. Doesn't matter how banged up he is from his long career. He's just putting it all on the line, and Al Horford is the winningest player on this team right now. And he knows, even though he hasn't won a title yet, he knows what it takes to get there and win one. So, talk about trust. I trust Al Horford. And
he's not going to rest until he does get that title. This season, he knows how, he knows his time. He's got willing 2 to 3 more years left in the tank. And he's not going to be the one to Taj Gibson the rest.
He's not playing no Haslam role on this team. He's not playing no Haslam role on this team.
Yeah, he's not a retirement tour type player. He's here to get this final ring and cement his career and hopefully be able to finish out on top. And what I've loved from him is the amount of leadership. Yes, we need to see the Jays step up, but he's the one that everyone respects in that locker room. He's the one that everyone can turn to, even the Jays can turn to when things are going awry and be like, okay, what have you've seen this before? Because he's been around long enough to see almost every situation in the NBA, and he's been able to help this team, and especially on the court, his IQ on the court is just complementary to this roster. He doesn't have to do too much, and what you're seeing from everyone on this roster is they don't have to do more than they're capable of. And the fact that Al Horford hasn't had to exert himself is what's going to allow him to hopefully be able to finish out his contract here.
Yeah, I think Al Horford, I'm excited for the playoffs because in that 2022 year, he took his game to a whole nother level. And in that Bucks series, before Game 6, Jayson Tatum happened, and Game 7, Grant Williams happened, Al Horford was kind of, dragging them to the finish line. That Game 4 Milwaukee, man, that was the Al Horford statement game. Giannis, gives him that dunk, throws that elbow, gets teed up, stares him down. Horford comes right back down the court and throws it down. So Al, his play excels in, the playoffs, and I'm excited to see what he does as well, because, the bench, they're really coming into their own now, and in a time that's very important to do so, because we don't necessarily need a huge spark from them every game. But what's important is that when we do, they're answering the call, because there will be games in the playoffs where it's got to be someone off the bench that's giving them that extra thing in order for them to get the win. So I'm excited for that, whether it's Horford, whether it's Pritchard, Hauser, Cornette, Brissett, Tillman. The depth on this team is truly there. If someone says it's not, I think that's a strictly narrative-driven statement, because I do think they have
games. You're not watching the games. Like any other person, casual, will look at the box score, especially like tonight. Like, it's like, oh, you're clearly better than the Bulls. You're up 11 games on the second seed. It's like, why'd you only beat them by 11? When they don't realize how the Celtics played. Sam Hauser, 23 points. Al Horford, 23 points. Peyton Pritchard, 15 and 8. Like, this guy's dropping a double-double almost every game nonchalantly. You got O'Shea Brissett getting like 30 offensive rebounds a game. It's like people will only look at points, and people will only look at they'll only look at the stuff. Like, for me, if I go look at a box score and I'm looking for specific players, I don't know about you guys, I'm always looking for the role players. I'm always looking to see who stepped up on people's benches and who's racking up the DMPs and all that stuff. But this Celtics team, you're right, Rob. It is strictly narrative. If you think this team isn't deep and you don't think this team is performing, and it's just watch the games, watch the highlights, watch.
I will say though, they've elevated their play. There was a stretch during the season where they weren't giving us much. But again, over
100%.
82 games, that happens. Right? You go flat, you get hot, you go flat, you get hot, and hopefully you get hot at the right time. And that's really how a champion is born, is you got hot at the right time. You did the right things over 82 games. And, you know, right now, the Celtics are cruising, guys. And 20-2 in their last 22 games. And if you want to extend that, we can go 22-3 in their last 25 games. I mean, this team right now is 11.5 games up from the Milwaukee Bucks. If they win on the road in Atlanta, they will have clinched the number 1 seed, win or loss from Milwaukee, guys. You look at this team, it feels like currently this is one of the best teams we've seen in modern NBA history. They currently have the 4th highest net rating of all time, right behind the 72 Bucks, the 96 Bulls, and the 70-71 Lakers. So they are currently in modern NBA history beating teams like we've never seen before. And if you want to compare this team to any team in Celtics history, it's that 2008 Celtics team. And I do think that right now, I'm sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. There we go. I do think that right now, if you compare the two, hold on. There we go. It popped up. God, it took me forever. Chasing history, guys. I mean, look at this. You look at them versus the 2007-2008 team. 57-14 through the first, or I guess not the first. You can't really say that anymore. Through 71 games. I mean, that's just wild. I mean, and there was a time where the Celtics were like, what? I mean, 30, they were 35-12. They were 35-12, and then they just explode for 20 or 37-12 for 20 out of the next 22.
You know, it's incredibly impressive how they've been consistently able to do this all season long. It's like they've only lost back-to-back games twice all year. November, their first 2 losses of the entire regular season. And then, you know, a tough loss. You're up 23 in the 4th quarter, and then you lost by 5 or 6 to the defending champs. So it's like, you know, those games happen. But this Celtics team is an absolute wagon. And people are going to bring up, I'm not going to bring it up, but people are going to bring up, oh, you know, the last 20 games, strength of schedule is the second easiest. It's like, yeah, but what about the first 35 games? And the Celtics had the strongest, and in the first 45 games, and the Celtics had the 3rd strongest schedule. So it's like you play who's on your schedule. You obviously don't make the schedule, so you can't control that. Celtics go in and they dominate every team that they should dominate. They dominate the Detroit Pistons. They dominate the Chicago Bulls 3-0 this year, 2 blowouts. This one tonight, double figures. They dominate the Atlanta Hawks in their previous matchups. And, you know, the list can go on and on and on, other than the Hornets, obviously. But Celtics this year, you know, we talk about not messing around. The Celtics really have not played with their food. There's been moments of lapses, and that's normal. That is normal. There are concerning moments in that, like we talked about, but that's also normal. You're not going to go 82-0, and it's not going to be a pretty 48-minute stretch from the Celtics night in and night out. But the most important thing is if you're able to kind of pull out those games, those kind of, this isn't by far a pretty game, but if we could find a way to win and pull it out, that's huge for the morale. That's huge for the confidence, and you learn from that and you move on. But what the Celtics have been able to do, it's funny, NBC Sports Boston said this is the 2nd longest win streak all season long in the entire NBA. The only team they're behind for the longest win streak is themselves, which was 11 earlier this year. So it's like, and I mean, really, the Celtics only lost 2 games since then, right? So if you want, Celtics to me have been consistently winning all year, which is what I wanted. They haven't slowed down. They haven't sped up. But what I really, really think would be the if I were to say like the turning point of the season, that Lakers game. You've only lost 2 games in 2 months since the Lakers game, a month and a half since the Lakers game, and you're dominating in almost every single one of those games. So this Celtics team, what the kids call a wagon.
Well, yeah. How about this? The Celtics have the best record against teams with 500 or below records, 27-1. They also hold the league's best record for teams over 500. So, I mean, Franco, this team is just like they're an absolute wagon. I mean, there's no other word to describe it. I mean, it feels like every night they roll in, whether it's in Boston, whether it's on the road. It just feels like I don't think they're gonna. It's like I mean, what I've seen is like, all right, they got this. Like, you know, in and out of the lineup, you got guys like Porzingis and Brown and Holiday, and yet they're still managing to find a way. I mean, Chicago's no team that will, you know, just roll over, especially at home. So for the Celtics to, you know, go in there and handle business tonight, I thought with the injury report as lengthy and long as it was, Franco, I think, you know, right now they're just, I mean, I don't see anyone other than Denver stopping them.
Yeah. And I think they realize that this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon, and they're really throwing it together with the team A, team B, who's sitting what night, minute restrictions, not without even limiting the team and having players sit out in countable games where it could have been used. They're very calculated nights where the players aren't not to say they wouldn't be missed, and if they weren't on the court, they wouldn't be more productive, but they're getting rest at the right times, and it's almost. I really think it's been a great job of getting the right people around Joe Mazzulla and being able to advise him through this run, and like, okay, how do we keep control of this team? And I kind of see this team taking full control of games, and they control the narrative of what these games are going to become. Like, almost first quarter of this game, I was like, okay, this is going to be a game through the wire, thick and through. But during the second quarter, they kind of turn up the pace, and once the opponent slips up a little bit, and they can turn it into a 20-point lead, and then that's when they coast again.
And you know what was impressive tonight? Was their fourth quarter execution was very impressive. Right. Last 5 minutes of the game, they handled beautifully, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, that I got a little nervous when it was a 5-point game with 4 minutes left. I was like, oh geez, like I was like, oh boy, we bet, like, because to me, with how good this team is and how much better they are than the Chicago Bulls, even with how shorthanded we are, with me it was like, and Rob, you kind of mentioned this too earlier before the game. It's like a little trap game here for the Celtics, like Chicago desperate for a win here at home, fighting for their playoff lives. The Celtics, you know, they have been great on second nights of back-to-back, but again, second night of a back-to-back, and they kind of looked sloppy to start off this game. It's like, ooh, like this kind of has Chicago written all over it if you're just, you know, kind of just looking at it from a faraway distance. But the way the Celtics were able to go in there and handle their business, and, you know, Chicago did keep it tight, but the Celtics were able to pull away when it mattered the most. And the way they handled themselves down the stretch was really relieving. Jayson Tatum getting to the basket towards the end of the game reminded me of that Milwaukee game when Milwaukee went on their run and made it close towards the end of the game, and Boston pushed their lead back out when it at the end in the closing minutes because Jayson Tatum put his head down, got to the basket, got to the foul line. So great execution tonight down the stretch from the Celtics, and they were able to handle their business in a form where everybody pitched in. This was, if there's a definition of a team win, tonight was one of those games.
And you know what? They've got this weird stretch in Atlanta up next, right? They've got 4 days.
Stupid.
Sunday to Thursday, they're in Atlanta for. So 5 days. They got 5 days in Atlanta, which honestly, I'd prefer over jumping around. I think you're kind of in a set spot.
But I just like, just as a fan who strictly bases his day off the Celtics, two off days in between the same location is just awkward. It's like that conference final schedule like a year or two ago where it was just awful. But
every 2 days.
It's like every 2 days, you know, but for the Celtics, it's another good chance to see another potential first round opponent. It's also another really solid chance for the Celtics to catch up on some rest because, you know, as much as us fans want to see the Celtics play every night, let's face it, we want this team to be well rested and well healthy. That also, with the 2 off days in between games, that also makes me wonder if at least one of these 2 games the Celtics go all out and they play everybody. You
I
know,
think they do both.
with the exception of Holiday, if he's ready to go or not, because you definitely don't want to force him because that's a real injury. But definitely wouldn't shock me if the Celtics definitely, go the healthy 1 through 15 route. Not to, not to go away from this topic at all, but I do want to mention, and I do want to kind of throw it out there since we're on the topic of rest and making sure everybody stays healthy. Keita only has 2 more available games for the Celtics this year, unless he is converted. Contract, I think, calls for 47 games or 50 games. He's already played 47. Even though tonight he suited up, this will actually be his 48th game, even though he didn't get time. So that's something to keep your eye on. But wouldn't shock me if the Celtics go full strength here in Atlanta, at least one of these 2 games.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at their schedule. They have a few more games that are important. I would treat this Atlanta stretch as a playoff round 1, games 3 and 4. That's almost how this would be, as if, like, let's say we are playing Atlanta round 1 and there might be a situation where we're gonna have 2 nights off in the same city and it's away from home. So this is a good situation for the team to get some almost a practice in, get used to playing in an away practice stadium or gym to warm up. And I think I'm a big fan of having 2 games at the end of the season, not in the middle of like an away stretch. So I think that just being able to get a good experience down in Atlanta and treat it like a round 1.
Is Trae Young back or no? Is he out for the year? Or
I
is
think he's out for the year.
Oh,
which is like that's why this is interesting, because again, it's like right now you just got to win 1 game to lock up that first seed. So
or Milwaukee can lose, but either way,
or right.
Yeah.
It's like Milwaukee's not going to win out, and the Celtics aren't going to lose out, and it's right now. And knock on wood, I don't want to jinx it. My jinx record has been pretty solid as I feel like of the past year.
Oh, Bucks got the Thunder tomorrow night.
So so it's like, and again, Milwaukee right now they're fighting for that 2nd seed. You figure, if you do see Cleveland in that 2nd round, you want to have home court if you're Milwaukee. So they're going to be playing. And it's like it's totally an opposite situation that Boston's been in.
Well,
than every other year prior. Usually they're the team that's fighting for the 2nd, the 3rd, right? Having to play their guys extended minutes throughout, the last 15 games of the season. And this year they don't have to. And I do want to say, I'm going to be a broken record about this over the next 10 games. Health over everything at this point. They have proven everything to everyone right now. There is no reason to chase 66 wins or chase the 60. We can still get 68 wins. Don't chase it. There's no reason to do that. Be smart with the injury report. Be smart, about everything, because I really think that's key here. If Boston can close out the season and roll into the playoffs healthy, then I really, really, really like their odds. Despite any, unprecedented injury.
So it's kind of insane that despite the difference between 1st and 2nd seed, the Eastern Conference standings are extremely tight. Like the difference between the 6th seed and the 8th seed is a game and a half. And then the difference between Milwaukee's 2 seed and New York's 5 seed is 3 games with 12 plus games remaining for some teams. So it's like that's kind of important to watch if you're the Celtics, because not that you want to overlook your 1st round opponent, but hey, Milwaukee bumps down to that 4 or 5 spot. Ooh, you could be seeing Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo 2nd round, but obviously that's something you can't control. But I agree, Rob. Don't go chasing
Right.
68, 69, 70 wins, whatever it is. Don't go chasing that. Like, you can get 68 wins and get bounced in the first round, and that doesn't matter. Or you can get 68 wins and the guy goes
we saw it with
down.
the Bruins. We saw
and,
it with the Bruins.
You saw it with the Bruins. You saw it with the Warriors, who got 73 wins and they lost in the finals. So it's like you clinched playoff berth. You're about to clinch first place. That's all you need to do. Obviously, you definitely want to try to win every game you can, but at the same time, if it means that you got to get some guys some rest and you have to sacrifice some guys to make sure that they're well rested and well healthy come playoff time, you got to do what you got to do. Plus, I think it's too, not to interrupt you, Rob. Plus, it just doesn't make sense because mention the Celtics strength of schedule. Like, it's not like we're playing Milwaukee's and Cleveland's and Oklahoma City's the entire way. Like, we're playing a lot of easier teams, and so it's like it's not worth it. Like, especially if you're playing teams like Atlanta and Charlotte and Detroit, teams that you're not going to see come April and May.
Right.
So
I also think that it's like, go with this route that you've been going with. Just keep it up, right? All right, tonight, Porzingis, Brown, White, you're playing. All right, next night, all right, you got Horford, White, because again, White's kind of like the guy that I have the most confidence in. I think that he's going to be fine because
he doesn't like to take nights off.
I know, and I don't want to play Holiday at all. Like, at all, I don't want Holiday touching the court for the rest of the regular season.
They might have to rest Pritchard, but the way he's been playing,
I know, but it's like right now, it's like just keep doing this. Play, 2 out of the top 5 guys.
Play 3, rest 3.
Right, play 3, rest 3, and then just whatever the bench gives you from there, it's going to build confidence. And because again, it's like, even against Oklahoma coming up, right? I think Oklahoma's the biggest game for the rest of the year. Not even that Milwaukee game, because I think by then maybe Milwaukee will still be fighting for the playoff spot, so they'll have to roll out their starters. Yeah, I don't think Boston's not going to even care to roll out their starters
in that game.
Yeah, no doubt. So I think right now for the Celtics, it's just with the rotation. I'd like to see them keep it up with these, these little, 1A, 1B type of teams where it's, you're going in, all right, you're checking in, switching off nights, because they're doing it really well. It's given the bench runs. And again, it's like you're keeping your legs fresh while also keeping them warm, because you're getting to kind of, check in, pick and choose when you're playing. So I do think that's really important moving forward for the Celtics.
Do we have any more back-to-backs left?
No.
Does anybody know off the top of their head?
I'm looking at the schedule. There's one more, and that's at the end of the season.
Second and third last game of the season. New York and Charlotte.
Oh,
those are the summer Celtics are rolling out a summer league lineup for that one. We're bringing some guys up.
I also do want to say is we're on the road for a while here, 9 more days, but longest road trip of the year. However, it follows up with like 6 out of the last 7 games at home. So I do think that, again, you look at the end of the year, you look at the schedule, you look at that's going to be a great opportunity. You're going to get to be in Boston for virtually the entire remainder of the year. You'll get to roll into the playoffs with the locked-in 1 seed. Home court, just kind of waiting to see who you're going to play. Right now, I would assume it's going to be Philadelphia, because I don't think Embiid's going to come back. And if he does, it won't be the same. And if he doesn't, then I'd guess you probably see Chicago at the 8 seed if the Sixers are without Embiid.
It's hard to see Atlanta making it out. Like, now they're down Sadiq. Well, now they're down Sadiq Bey as well, and they're down Trae Young. It's like, ugly situation for them. Kind of surprised they haven't fallen out. Shame on Brooklyn and Toronto for not really taking advantage of, what Atlanta's, their injury report. But yeah, you're right, Rob. Like, Celtics have a great opportunity here. Get in their comfort zone. They're on a long road trip now, but they're going to get essentially almost a whole month of April at home. And a majority of it at home in the playoffs, because, you lock up that 1 seed, get the home court advantage throughout the playoffs. So that's crucial.
Yeah, NBA, the regular season's winding down, boys. It's time to get into playoffs.
I'm starting to get like chills down my spine just thinking like, holy shit, like playoffs are just around the corner. Like, I'm actually starting to get excited. Like, I
I'm
was
not-
just looking at the schedule and I was like,
Justin's like,
wow,
no,
it's
no.
already
Summer
it's
League,
already
Summer
there.
League.
Dude, I hate the playoffs. I hate them. I hate stressing.
Walking down
dude.
Causeway with the sun shining, the breeze flowing.
Oh,
the
Blood,
Celtics
yeah,
after a
the
win.
blood
Worst
pressure
days ever.
medicine goes doubles. Double.
However, guys, the Celtics were able to walk away with their 9th straight win in Chicago on the road tonight on the second night of a back-to-back behind 26 points and 6 assists on the night for Jayson Tatum. Al Horford and Sam Hauser tagged along, 23 points for each of them. Hauser 7 to 8 from behind the arc. Obviously, like we said earlier, Celtics without Porzingis, Brown, and Drew Holiday. Holiday obviously dealing with that dead arm syndrome. Hopefully he can get better soon. The Celtics will be playing the Atlanta Hawks on Monday, March 24th. That will be a 7:30 tip-off. You can catch that on NBC Sports Boston or NBA TV, either or. That is Game 72. After the final buzzer sounds, check right back here to Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. We'll have you covered live. Guys, I'm Rob. Next to me is Justin, and across the way is my man, Nick Franco, guys. And until next time, you know the deal. Go Celtics.